The town of York in the north of England is famous for its beauty and its ancient streets. For 1,000 years the footings of the city have barely changed, and in 1976 there was a unique opportunity to study the inhabitants of Viking Age York. The famous Coppergate excavation revealed extremely deep stratigraphy and a remarkably well-preserved row of Viking Age houses. Each plot of land was well defined, and within each plot of land was the rubbish of each house, in particular cups and bowls which had been made on the street for sale. Here is an unfinished bowl which was being turned on a pole lathe at some point. Indeed, rather than the practice of coopering, making barrels, Coppergate gains its name from making cups and bowls. Cupurgata, the street of the cup makers. However, more than just wooden objects were being made on this site. Fine metal items like padlocks and extremely well-crafted knives were apparently being made in the area. Thanks to the anoxic soil conditions, leather items like the sheaths for knives were extremely well preserved. So too were the remarkably carved bone needles, and details of daily life continue to seep from this site. Metal brooches for holding clothes in place and storing wealth as metal, glass beads from the Roman period which the Vikings loved to collect, a finely made deer antler nipcomb with its composite cover still in place, extremely well made shoes for getting around on the muddy streets of pre-paved Jorvik. In comparison with modern replicas, we can see just how well they had been preserved. Details of daily entertainment, like music, were unearthed in the form of wooden panpipes, and games were often being played apparently. Here is a walrus tusk dice. Indeed, half a board game called Hnefatafl was unearthed at the Coppergate excavation. If you got bored with games, perhaps you could go ice skating using these cowbone skates. Or maybe you'd much rather have sat round looking at your exotic amber jewellery. Or perhaps your sock needed downing. These were the details that were coming out of the ground in York. And finally, extremely rare items like coin die for pressing ancient peninga, and also the famous Coppergate helmet, confirmed this site as being an all-round, truly remarkable find. The deep stratigraphy, coupled with the number and state of preservation of the finds, enabled archaeologists to reconstruct daily life in Jorvik in great detail. The sum total of these findings were used to construct a ride on which one can see the area as it might have looked 1,000 years ago. It even comes complete with its own toilet. And of course, Coppergate would not be complete without the cup maker working away on his pole lathe. The excavation at Coppergate was remarkable, not least because it unearthed a hitherto undreamed of cache of finds. But perhaps the greatest legacy of this excavation has been the rehabilitation of the Vikings of York in the mind of the public. Rather than a caricature, what was unearthed was a complicated, sophisticated, probably very smelly society in the north of England.